Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So both of the conference finals matchups are 4 games in. Both of the series are 3-1 in favor of the team that won their conference last season in the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. So I decided to ask you guys for your take/reactions to these conference finals over on Instagram and Beyond Hockey. Go follow me there so you can get involved in these. Just basically what we've seen in the series thus far, what we think is going to continue to happen, what's going to happen in the Stanley Cup finals for the teams that are down 3-1, what changes could they potentially make to finally get over, in both of their cases, get over the conference finals that they've been to multiple times in prior years. So yeah, thank you to everybody that submitted these take/reactions. And without further ado, let's dive into it. Up first, Max says Dallas needs to get rid of DeBoer. And yeah, when looking at DeBoer, 3 years, 3 Western Conference Finals. His tenure has not been bad by any stretch, considering he's got there. But he kind of set the expectations so high by immediately getting to that Conference Finals, where I somewhat understand firing him to a degree. I think you potentially give him one more season with this team. Because again, 3 times he's been one of the Final Four teams remaining. But this year has been pretty disappointing. Back in 2023, that was their first real run. Vegas was kind of a juggernaut. They went down, I believe, 3-0 in that series. They didn't really stand that much of a chance. Last year, McDavid just kind of went Super Saiyan mode. And then this year, you thought that they were going to finally get it done. It was a coin flip series, but considering Edmonton didn't have Ekholm, Dallas was finally fully healthy. For this to be the result, they've shown life. It's not like they've gotten absolutely pummeled. In Game 1, actually, they played pretty bad at 5-on-5, and in Game 2, they got a little bit dominated. But in Game 3 and Game 4, just have not been able to get it past Stuart Skinner at the end of the day. Stuart Skinner has really just shut the door, and the adjustments have not been there from DeBoer, where I could definitely understand where a Dallas Stars fan is coming from. By now, what options are out there for Dallas to potentially get? I don't think that there's really that much of an upgrade over Pete DeBoer, especially when you look at his Game 7 record. But I agree, his seat is definitely hot, and rightfully so, although again, 3 straight Western Conference Finals. At some point, when you trade for Mikko Rantanen and when you trade for Mikael Granlund, we got to make that Stanley Cup final. And this is a team where some of these core pieces have made a Stanley Cup final back in 2020. I know that was the bubble. But yeah, the hot seat is definitely on for Pete DeBoer, and I'll be pretty indifferent if they fire him. I'll understand it, but I probably give him one more season. Next up, Gavin Callahan, 23, says, the Oilers are a team of destiny. And honestly, that's how I feel. When looking at them versus the LA Kings, after those first 2 games, you're like, okay, the Edmonton Oilers are done. They don't have Ekholm. The defense has not been the same. Stuart Skinner absolutely stinks. Calvin Pickard's not going to come in and take over the series. And that's exactly what happened. They found life, and basically since then, they have arguably been the best team in the NHL, either them or the Florida Panthers, obviously, but they have been absolutely steamrolling teams. You got guys like Corey Perry and Evander Kane playing some of the best hockey in the last 5 years of their careers. It's crazy watching the Edmonton Oilers cook. And McDavid and Draisaitl have been very good, but the amount of contributions that they've been getting from other guys, it does seem to be. And now Stuart Skinner playing like a Conn Smythe level goaltender. It's absolutely crazy, and I think a team of destiny is something fitting for the team that does have the best player that's well on his way to becoming a top 2 player, top 3 player of all time. Next up from Lou Jacobs, always going to make it about Toronto. It's safe to say Toronto is the 3rd best team in the league, and we should run back the core 4. Shut the hell up. Shut up. No, we are not doing this. When looking at it, if they lost in Game 5 or Game 7 to the Florida Panthers and it was a close score, I could understand you saying that, but they got absolutely caved in at home, especially in that Game 7, did not show life. To just say that they would have beat the Carolina Hurricanes, to say that they would have beat the Dallas Stars, even like a Colorado Avalanche, even a Winnipeg Jets, I don't know if that's the case. So no, we are not doing that with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I hope that they run it back so they just continue to falter. And again, even if you do think that's true, you should get rid of Mitch Marner, who was mostly invisible in those Final 4 games. But back to the conference finals. No more Leafs talk. Next up from Seb, we talked about DeBoer before. Now we're going to talk about Brind'Amour, and he's saying that he should get canned. And when looking at Rod Brind'Amour, I think that there is more of a case to bring back Rod Brind'Amour even more than a Peter DeBoer. When looking at Brind'Amour, although, yes, 2019, 2023 swept in the conference finals this year, probably going to lose in 5, maybe 6 games. This was never the year for the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't know how many times I have to freaking say this, but like they sold to a degree at the deadline once they realized that they couldn't re-sign Mikko Rantanen. They were not aggressive in terms of picking up talent. He has Jesperi Kotkaniemi as his second line center. Like, can we calm down? And especially for a team like Carolina, you look at the 10 years before Rod Brind'Amour when they didn't make the playoffs, for Jeff Skinner's entire Carolina Hurricane tenure. we got to pump the brakes a little bit on Brandon Moore. I think next year when they have $28 million and they go out and get serious impact guys, then we can talk about Brandon Moore firing him unless he makes it to a game 6, a game 7 of the conference finals. But right now, it is definitely premature to a degree. Carolina got these high expectations because they actually played pretty good after the Rantanen trade, and they just took care of the New Jersey Devils and Washington Capitals in convincing fashion. But we need to calm down a little bit on that. Speaking of a coach in a positive light, Maj and 1018 says Chris Knoblauch is a top 5 coach in the NHL. And yeah, it's getting hard to argue against that at this point. Definitely has a great roster, similarly to Jay Woodcroft, who had a lot of success in Edmonton. But considering the fact that this guy has probably going to make back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, and especially this year more so than last year, overcoming a Matthias Ekholm injury, overcoming now a Zach Hyman injury, overcoming pretty shit goaltending in those first 2 series. Well, actually, Pickard really stepped up, but in that first series and the adjustments that he's made in these series, utilizing Draisaitl in more of a defensive role in the second round against Vegas Golden Knights, being able to adjust, getting Darnell Nurse far away from Evan Bouchard, and now both of those guys are playing pretty damn good, putting Corey Perry on like the top line, as well as reigniting Evander Kane. It has been an awesome coaching job by Chris Knoblauch. So yeah, I'd probably have him as my 4th or 5th best coach. I probably still have Maurice, Cooper. Then you can make probably an argument for Knoblauch. Maybe I'm forgetting someone there. But yeah, he is definitely up there in terms of top-end coaches, and it's not just because of the star talent, because we're seeing the rest of the depth come out. That has a lot to do with Chris Knoblauch putting those guys in the right situation. And next up, this really cracked me up from Max. Dallas is, in the NFL terms, the Buffalo Bills. And yeah, I get what you're saying. They make it to the conference finals, but then they lose to just like a generational talent, Patrick Mahomes for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I'm not sure Dallas quite has a Josh Allen, though, even though I like Mikko Rantanen a lot. Josh Allen's either the second or the third best quarterback, depending on where you land in the him and Lamar Jackson debate. But yeah, they definitely have some overlap in terms of teams that you know are so good. You know they're going to be in the mix every single season. But do they have enough to get over the top, to get over a Patrick Mahomes, a Connor McDavid, and Leon Draisaitl that always just seem to have some kind of late game heroics or something like that and get it done? That made me laugh, though. Next up from Glee Gotti 16, Skinner must be on Team Canada for the Olympics. Hill is not the guy. Binner, Skinner, Monty. And yeah, in terms of being on Team Canada, I could definitely say it's crazy we're saying that. If you said that, like, what, 3-4 weeks ago during the LA Kings series, you'd be called an absolute clown. But yeah, he continues to rise to the occasion outside of those first 2 games. And in last year's playoffs, like games, what was it, 5-6, or maybe it was 5-7, 4-7. He was absolutely lights out. When the lights get brighter, Stuart Skinner tends to show up. He's kind of like the inverse Mitch Marner to a degree. So yeah, I wouldn't hate the idea of bringing him in 2026. I think Binnington's probably still your starter right now, just having more experience at Four Nations, performed at a high level. But yeah, when you talk about goalies with big game resumes lately, Canadian-wise, it doesn't get much bigger than Stuart Skinner, back-to-back deep Stanley Cup playoff runs. And yeah, he showed up when it matters most late in series. Next up, we got one in the similar vein of the Toronto Maple Leafs one. As an Oilers fan, LA was the second best team in the West this season. And yeah, similarly to Toronto, who definitely played Florida the best as of right now, barring Carolina comeback. I still can't say this because although LA did look like the better team for 3 or 4 of those games, does LA beat a Dallas Stars? Do they beat a Colorado Avalanche? I'm still not fully sold on that. But yeah, I think that if you're an LA Kings fan, you definitely are a little bit more optimistic about your group, considering they played so good in those first 4 games. Game 5, they got absolutely caved in, though. But yeah, I guess you're a little bit optimistic. I don't like playing the, if the seeding was different, we'd be in the Western Conference Finals versus the Edmonton Oilers. At the end of the day, if you want to win a Stanley Cup with Kopitar and Doughty one more time, you got to beat an Edmonton Oilers. And you didn't, and you looked pretty bad in the final 2 games. So I think we got to pump the brakes a little bit on that. Freddie95 says Dallas needs a top pair right-handed defenseman, and you would be 100% correct. Cody Ceci is playing like 21 minutes a night in these playoffs, like 20-30 in this series. He's playing a pretty sizable role. It is bad for the Dallas Stars. Yes, they can technically throw Harley and Heiskanen on the same pair, but they need a reliable. They probably should have re-signed Chris Tanev. I know that that's like an egregious 6-year deal, but at $4.5 million for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he is well worth that. Maybe he just didn't want to sign in Dallas, but they need to bring somebody in for sure. They need to dump Matt Dumba. The only problem is I made a video, a TikTok on this today. Dallas has $5 million in salary cap right now with Duchesne, Granlund, Ben, and Maverick Bourque being free agents, as well as the Donov, as well as Colin Blackwell. So, like, you're definitely going to dump Dumba and his $3.75 million. You got to get that the hell out, no doubt. But outside of that, like, they're not going to have the salary cap. I think they're going to try to bring back probably their captain and Jamie Benn and Bourque, but then you're only going to have like $3 to $4 million to potentially go get a right-handed defenseman. We saw what Jim Nill did with $3 to $4 million last year, and that was get Matt Dumba and Ilya Lyubushkin. So I'm not sure, and they only have one first-round pick their next 4 years. So although Dallas is still in a very good spot, I think that's a lot easier said than done because that is such a position of need for so many teams. And for Dallas, I'm not sure you're going to have the assets or the cap space to go do that, unfortunately. Not saying that they shouldn't have done the Rantanen deal or something like that, but potentially that money and assets could have been spread more effectively for this team. Next up, on the flip side of that, Guy Cause77 says, the way the Oilers defense is playing right now, they are the best in the league. And yeah, I probably would agree to a degree with that. They've been awesome. They're only allowing 1.8 goals at 5-on-5 right now in terms of expected goals. That's only 2.25. The way that they are playing is so impressive in terms of just limiting some stuff in the middle of the ice, letting Stuart Skinner see everything, clearing out in front of Stuart Skinner, clearing out any guy trying to screen the goaltender. It has been absolutely awesome to watch. They could be a little bit better in terms of denying zone entries, but Dallas is going to get some in. They just have too good of skaters and too skilled of guys. But it has been a defensive masterclass, especially against Vegas, the way that they were able to hone in on Eichel and Stone. And beyond that, Vegas doesn't quite have the scoring depth, forward depth. It's been awesome. Again, they basically flipped the switch once they had that comeback in Game 4. And since then, because of Knoblauch, because of their defense court, guys like Stetcher's balling out right now, as well as even Kulak locking it down. It's been very impressive. Darnell Nurse is not noticeable right now, which with Darnell Nurse, that's all you want. You just don't want mistakes. At this point, it's been really cool to watch for Edmonton. Connor McDavid, obviously, with that one reporter, like, oh, we can defend. He is 1,000% right. They are playing damn good defense right now. Franny Boy 06 says, Dallas needs to shake things up. Core clearly can't get it done. And I'd say that they did kind of shake things up at this year's deadline. They got Mikko Rantanen. I think after next year, if they have another disappointing loss, then you shake it up. But yeah, they brought in what they believe still probably is the best player when he's on his game, the best player on this team. So they did shake it up to a degree. They definitely potentially need to address that right side of the defense. But besides that, they don't really have the money to. And even next summer, Harley and Robertson are going to need extensions. So for Dallas, your only option is to kind of run it back. And it's not like, again, they played very good in Game 3 and Game 4 of this series. A couple different balances, and this definitely could be a 2-2 series right now, maybe even 3-1 in Dallas's favor. Like, they're not getting absolutely caved in. Like Carolina, outside of Game 4 where they did play good, that was ugly. Like Dallas is still a damn good team and are not so far away, in my opinion, where I think that we need to be talking about completely nuking the core. There's identifiable weaknesses, but they just sadly don't have the assets or cap space right now to address that. Next up, we got another one from Max. I think this is like his third. He sent in some really good ones. I promise. He didn't pay me or anything to include him so much in this, but he says Carolina needs a superstar to make it to the Cup Finals. And I think Eric Tulsky fully agrees with you on this. That's why he went out and tried to get a Mikko Rantanen. They couldn't get it in terms of a contract. They did try to offer him, 12.5, or was it maybe even $13 million? And it just didn't work out. I think he needs to continue to take swings. I'm not sure Mitch Marner's that swing, just because with them, it's clearly goal scoring that you need a lot of, not more so two-way guys. Jake Gensel, although maybe not that upper echelon, would have been a great fit for them long-term. But yeah, he needs to continue. If a top-end guy becomes available via trade and you think that you can re-sign him, go out and get him. That is a difference. Not a difference in the series. Florida just is that good of a team. If they had Mikko Rantanen right now, Logan Stankoven's been arguably their best player in the series. Like, they were still far away, but this offseason, he needs to be aggressive. I don't know if there's any of those guys. There's really not right now, but over the next 2 to 3 years, if you have the salary cap space, which they should have, be aggressive, try to get that offensive difference maker, because you're probably not winning with Sebastian Aho as your number one guy or Jarvis as your number two guy. Yes, there's other teams like 2019 the St. Louis Blues, but they had Ryan O'Reilly, who's point per game in the Selke winner. They need to get a legit high-end offensive difference maker. I don't think I'm controversial for saying that. Next up, the Stars deserve the same treatment as the Canes for not being able to get over the hump. And I get what you're saying to a degree, and I think the Stars are starting to get some serious criticism. I'm seeing people draw parallels to the 2010 San Jose Sharks with the Dallas Stars right now, especially considering Peter DeBoer coached that team. But when looking at it, I still think it is a little bit different because first off, again, Dallas did take a swing similar to Carolina, but they were able to re-sign a Mikko Rantanen, so you need to see a potential full season of Mikko Rantanen acclimated to that system. Dallas, I think, does have just a straight up better forward core and a better top two defenseman than the Carolina Hurricanes. I think that they've definitely been closer in their conference finals, even in this series. I think they're a lot closer to the Edmonton Oilers than Carolina is with Florida, and in the prior 2 years, they did win 2 games in the conference finals compared to Carolina that got swept. It wasn't that close. Well, actually, 2023 was pretty close versus Florida. Every game was like 1 goal, but still, they didn't win a game. They didn't win a game at the end of the day. They got swept as much as Ron Brind'Amour wants to say that they didn't. I think Dallas is closer. Dallas is definitely closer than a Carolina right now. So I don't think that the criticism should be same. Dallas definitely should get some criticism, but not nearly as much as Carolina, who has a coach that plays such a unique style that is not really translated into actual playoff success come the Eastern Conference Finals. Versus Dallas, I think that they do play a brand of hockey where I could easily see them winning the Stanley Cup, like they've come decently close the last 2 years in doing. Next up, our Fleury 3. Bouchard has cemented himself as a part of the big three with Makar and Hughes. You could say he's the third best defenseman in hockey, and I wouldn't call you crazy to put him in that upper echelon. And I know that Quinn Hughes has not had that legendary playoff run. You can't compare him to Cale Makar because the playoffs in the regular season just have been next level by Cale Makar. Evan Bouchard, I've always defended him for the most part. I had him in my top 40 players in the NHL, while some people called him an absolute bum. He is definitely rising yet again to the occasion, and especially without Matthias Ekholm, he's definitely a top 6 defenseman in the NHL. I got to see it for the full regular season and also for the playoffs before we start putting him in those conversations. Quinn Hughes is tough because, like, in the playoffs, I don't even know if he's going to be in the playoffs next year for the Vancouver Canucks, and just what Quinn Hughes brings to the table in terms of offensive and defensively puck moving. Bouchard is still damn good, but I don't think we can quite put him in that top 2. I think that's a little bit hyperbolic. He's in the Fox, definitely the Heiskanen kind of tier, Rasmus Dahlin tier right now. That 3 through 6, not top 2. In my opinion. Next up, we got Sam Collins, 47. Edmonton and Florida are the best couple of teams in many years. I assume you're saying for the next 3 to 4 years. And yeah, if I told you not this season, obviously, the next 4 seasons after this, what are the odds of us getting an Edmonton and Florida final yet again? You'd probably say like 35, 36%. The odds of both of those teams making the finals at least once in that time period is probably like 50, 60, 65% most likely. So yeah, I think that these are the 2 premier teams. They have very clear windows of the next 4 to 5 years because McDavid's 28 now, Draisaitl's 29, Barkov's 29. He's an early birthday for the 2013 draft. Kachuk's 27, Reinhart's 29. Like, these guys, these cores are firmly in their prime, and they're just elite goddamn players. So yeah, I think over the next 3 to 4 years, we knew that though. We knew that these guys were the cream of the crop, and it's probably going to continue to be that way. We're going to finish off with some optimism though from Brennan Sweet. Both teams take it to game 7. And yeah, for Dallas, going back home, easily could see them win the game. If they play the way that they played in that first period and the way that they played in that game 3, they easily could win in Dallas. Game 6, coin flip, and get it back to 7. I don't expect that to happen. I cannot see McDavid and Draisaitl blowing a 3-1 lead, but it's possible. As for the other series, I mean, in Game 4, Carolina really came out. They were desperate as hell, and they're also going back home. So it is possible. Both of them forcing Game 7s, I would put that at like a 5% chance. One of them forcing a Game 7, 20-ish% chance. Like these, again, we're talking about Florida and Edmonton, the 2 teams that made the Stanley Cup final last year and have had prior playoff success. Like, these are not inexperienced teams, and these teams do have the better star players in these series where I think that they're going to close it out. So it's possible, but very unlikely. Let me know in the comments, though, what do you think about these takes/reactions? What are your takes/reactions based on the conference finals thus far? Drop them below. I'll let you know what I think. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.